Elon Musk. The name alone sparks 1,000 conversations. Is he a visionary genius, revolutionizing space travel and electric vehicles? Or is he a workaholic pushing the boundaries of human endurance? Maybe he's a bit of both, and that's what makes him so fascinating. We see the rockets launch, the electric cars glide by, but what's it really like to be Elon Musk? What does it take to juggle multiple groundbreaking companies, push the limits of technology, and still find time to tweet memes? The answer, my friends, might surprise you.
For 1 week, I lived like Elon Musk. That meant early mornings, relentless work, a diet fueled by caffeine, and the constant pressure to innovate and achieve. Could I handle the pace? Would I crack under the pressure? Or would I emerge from the experience a changed person, ready to conquer the world? Buckle up, because this is the story of my week living like Elon Musk. Day 1. Operation Lev. Like Elon commenced, my mission was to decode the daily habits of a certified genius, billionaire, and occasional Twitter instigator. Easy, right? First things first, intel gathering. My weapon of choice? Google. Articles, interviews, even Reddit threads. Hours disappeared as I delved into the Musk rabbit hole. Could I, a mere mortal with a penchant for procrastination and a solid 8 hours of sleep, even come close to emulating this superhuman schedule? One thing became abundantly clear. I needed a plan. This wasn't just about working more, it was about working differently. Elon's famous for his first principles thinking, breaking down problems to their core and building up from there. So I channeled my inner Elon and got strategic. Step 1. Identify the core elements of the Elon experience. Early mornings? Check. Relentless focus? Double check. Next, I had to adapt these elements to my own life. This wasn't about becoming him, it was about learning from him. The night before day 1 felt strangely significant, like the calm before a hurricane of productivity. I prepped my workspace, laid out my to-do list, and set my alarm for a time that usually only saw me in my dreams. But then I thought about Elon, about his audacious goals, and his unwavering belief in pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And I realized that even if I failed miserably, at least I was trying. Remember that alarm I set for a time that usually only existed in my nightmares? Yeah, it went off. And it was brutal. My body, accustomed to the warm embrace of my duvet until at least 7 a.m., revolted. So I channeled my inner entrepreneur, or at least tried to, and dragged myself out of bed. The first hour was rough. Coffee became my lifeline, each sip a tiny victory against the overwhelming urge to crawl back into bed.
Yet something strange happened as the minutes ticked by. The fog in his brain started to lift.
Fueled by caffeine and a surprising surge of energy, I tackled my morning routine with an almost robotic efficiency. No time for leisurely scrolling through social media or catching up on the news. Elon would be optimizing his time, so I followed suit. The lack of sleep was starting to hit me, but I powered through with sheer willpower and another cup of coffee. My furry companion, sensing my unusual alertness, watched me with a mix of curiosity and concern. He'd never seen me this awake before noon.
By the time the rest of the world was stumbling into their workday, he felt like he'd already accomplished a full day's work. The early bird, as they say, gets the worm.
The biggest surprise of the morning? My focus was razor sharp. Usually it took me at least an hour and several cups of coffee to fully engage with work. But the early start, combined with the lack of usual distractions, had put me in a state of hyper-focus. I plowed through tasks that had been lingering on my to-do list for weeks. Emails were answered, reports were drafted, and I even managed to brainstorm some innovative ideas for my next project. No rockets involved, unfortunately. It was exhilarating. I felt like I was finally tapping into a level of productivity I never knew I possessed. The early start, as much as my sleep-deprived brain wanted to deny it, was working. Day 3 dawned bright and early, the sun mockingly cheerful as I pried myself out of bed. The initial novelty of the Elon Musk sleep schedule had worn off, replaced by a dull ache behind my eyes and a yearning for a nap that would never come. But hey, at least the coffee was still working its magic. Today's challenge? Juggling multiple projects, just like Elon effortlessly navigates between SpaceX, Tesla, and his other ventures. Except, without the billions of dollars and teams of geniuses at my disposal. Armed with my trusty to-do list, which now resembled a medieval scroll detailing an epic quest for productivity, I dove headfirst into the multitasking abyss. The problem with multitasking, I quickly realized, is that it's often disguised as productivity when it's actually the opposite. Switching between tasks, even for someone trying to emulate the great Elon Musk, creates mental friction, slowing you down and increasing the likelihood of errors. Realization dawned with the force of 1,000 rocket launches. I needed to prioritize. Even Elon, with his superhuman work ethic, couldn't possibly give equal attention to every single project at once. So, I channeled my inner CEO and got strategic. First, I identified the most critical tasks for each project. What absolutely had to get done today? What could be pushed to tomorrow? And what could be delegated to the magical land of someday? Maybe. It felt oddly liberating, knowing that I had a dedicated chunk of time to focus solely on one thing. The key, I discovered, was to be ruthless with my time. Every completed task, no matter how small, was a victory to be celebrated, with a silent fist pump and maybe a celebratory sip of coffee. As the day progressed, I settled into a rhythm. The initial overwhelm subsided, replaced by a sense of focus and even, dare I say it, enjoyment.
Bouncing between projects, his brain switched gears with surprising agility.
Each task, even if seemingly unrelated, presented an opportunity to engage different parts of my brain, keeping me alert and preventing the dreaded afternoon slump. And then, something magical happened. I stumbled upon that elusive state of flow, where time seemed to melt away, and I was completely absorbed in the task at hand. It was like being in a productivity trance, fueled by caffeine and the sheer satisfaction of getting things done. Who knew that juggling multiple projects could actually be fun? Day 4 of Operation Live. Like Elon began not with a bang, but with a whimper. Or more accurately, a yawn. A giant soul-crushing yawn that seemed to originate from the deepest, darkest corners of my sleep-deprived being. Elon, according to every article I'd read, thrived on 6 hours of sleep or less. He viewed it as an inefficiency, a waste of precious time that could be spent revolutionizing transportation or colonizing Mars. I, on the other hand, was starting to view sleep as a luxury I would happily trade my non-existent private jet for.
The world seemed to move at a slower pace, each task requiring Herculean effort to complete.
The day stretched before me, an endless expanse of to-dos and deadlines. I knew I had to rally, to summon whatever reserves of energy I had left. But how do you fight the overwhelming urge to simply curl up under your desk and take a nap? I guzzled coffee down, not for the taste, which was starting to resemble burnt tires, but for the jolt of energy it provided. Each sip was a mini-battle against the encroaching brain fog. Every completed task, no matter how small, felt like a victory against the overwhelming urge to surrender to sleep. By late afternoon, I was running on fumes. The caffeine, once a powerful ally, was now merely delaying the inevitable crash. My eyes felt gritty, my shoulders ached, and my concentration was shot. I found myself staring blankly at my computer screen, words swimming before my eyes. Even the simplest tasks felt insurmountable. Even Elon Musk, I reminded myself, was human. He might thrive on minimal sleep, but even he must have moments where he longed for a good 8 hours of shut-eye. Day 5 arrived, not with the blare of 1,000 trumpets, but with the gentle chirping of my phone's alarm. Gone was the jarring ringtone of the previous days. Even my auditory senses craved a gentler approach to this whole living like Elon experiment. The sleep deprivation was real, a constant companion at this point. But something else was starting to shift. The initial focus on mimicking Elon's schedule, the relentless pursuit of productivity for productivity's sake, started to feel empty.
Elon's success wasn't just about hard work. It was about his mindset, his ability to see the world differently, to challenge assumptions, and to relentlessly pursue ambitious goals. This, I realized, was the true essence of the Musk mindset. One of Elon's most talked about approaches to problem solving is his use of first principles thinking. Instead of blindly accepting conventional wisdom, he breaks down problems to their fundamental truths.
I decided to apply this principle to my own life. I started with a project that had been languishing in the too hard pile. I broke it down into smaller, more manageable parts.
I found myself asking questions I hadn't considered before. This was the power of first principles thinking.
Day 6. The home stretch of my Live Like Elon experiment. But instead of the triumphant finish line I'd envisioned, I found myself staring down a different beast altogether. Stress. The relentless pace, the constant pressure to perform, the sheer volume of information I'd crammed into my brain over the past few days. It was all starting to take its toll. My inner monologue had shifted from, "I can do this," to a more frantic, "What have I gotten myself into?" Elon, I reminded myself, thrived under pressure. He was known for his demanding work ethic, his ability to remain calm amidst chaos. I, on the other hand, was starting to resemble a pressure cooker about to blow. My usual coping mechanisms, a good night's sleep, a long walk, a healthy dose of procrastination, were off limits in this Elon-inspired world. I needed a new strategy, and fast.
Desperate times, as they say, call for desperate measures.
To survive the final stretch, I needed to manage the mounting stress. But how do you find Zen in a productivity hurricane?
My first attempt involved channeling my inner yogi.
I cleared a space, rolled out a towel, and tried deep breathing exercises. The result? My downward dog looked like a confused dachshund.
Next, I tried soothing my nerves with Mozart.
Instead, I tapped my foot, mind racing through my to-do list. It was time for a radical approach.
I stepped away, put on my headphones, and cranked up the volume. As the music filled my ears, something unexpected happened.
I started to dance.
The week, in all its chaotic, sleep-deprived glory, had come to an end.
I collapsed onto my couch, a monument to exhaustion and caffeine consumption. The world seemed to spin at a more reasonable pace now.
So what did I learn from my week-long foray into the world of Elon Musk?
Productivity isn't a one-size-fits-all equation. What works for a visionary entrepreneur might not translate to a mere mortal.
The early mornings, the focus, the pursuit of efficiency, they had their merits.
But they also came at a cost. The lack of sleep, the constant pressure. It wasn't sustainable for me.
And yet, despite the exhaustion, despite the moments of self-doubt and caffeine-fueled jitters, something had shifted within me.
I'd glimpsed a different way of operating, a different level of focus and determination I didn't know I possessed.
I'd learned the power of first principles thinking, of breaking down complex problems into manageable parts.
I'd embraced the importance of setting audacious goals, of daring to dream bigger than I thought possible. And I'd discovered that sometimes, the best way to manage stress is to crank up the music and dance like nobody's watching. It was about tapping into the Elon Within, the part of me that embraced challenges, that pushed boundaries, that refused to settle for the status quo. Narrator. Media. Business professional. Breaking the status quo. Creative brainstorming session. Innovative business meeting. The Elon Musk experiment wasn't about becoming a carbon copy of a billionaire entrepreneur.
As I transitioned back to my regular routine, I found myself incorporating some of Elon's principles into my daily life.
I woke up earlier, prioritized my tasks, and approached problems with curiosity and determination.
I even set a moonshot goal, something that scared me but filled me with purpose.
While I haven't mastered 6 hours of sleep, I've gained appreciation for rest and rejuvenation.
Living like Elon Musk, even for a week, was unforgettable.
It was a crash course in productivity and mindset, even from a simulated week in the life of a billionaire entrepreneur.